What is up? It is Dasslothman here to talk about the SpongeBob Secret Lair. Just share a little bit of my thoughts on it. I know a lot of people were going over the cards, going over why they chose what they did, or mostly disagreeing with it. But I want to share my thoughts and opinions. And if you like what you hear, make sure you follow me on Twitch at Dasslothman. And if you want to give me a like and subscribe here, I'd greatly appreciate it. Hope you stick around. Let's go ahead and get into it here. We're going to start off by talking about the SpongeBob Secret Lair. This got announced on Monday. They did the big announcement for it, but we kind of knew. We did know it was going to happen late last year that Magic the Gathering was going to be partnering up with Nickelodeon to do the SpongeBob Secret Lair. So they're just going to release a few cards. This is the Collider article. It's gonna go off on March 24th, right? Is whenever they do the release for them. Limited run. Not a fan of that. Excuse me. But there are gonna be 3 drops. That's one of the big things about it. It's gonna be 3 drops, which is gonna be one of them as like the main characters as legendary creatures. There's going to be a lands drop, and then there's going to be a spells drop. The one that I'm personally most excited for is the spells drop. I think that is the coolest one, because it is all the memes, and I think it's funny. But I know some people are not super excited, right? Some people are kind of questioning the choices of legendaries for some of the characters, but I don't know we need to really read that deeply into SpongeBob character theory, right? And try and make it match up with Magic the Gathering characters and everything. I think going just based off of jokes is kind of fine for the IP that they're working with. It's SpongeBob, right? The characters, as far as like character theory lining up with Magic characters and character theory, I don't think is nearly as important as anything like is anything like the impact the show has had as far as memes and people of a certain age group, my age group, millennials, right, who grew up watching SpongeBob, kind of remember this vaguely sitcom-esque animated show for kids with a bunch of absurdist humor in it and the sponge and everything, and it is what it is, right? It's SpongeBob. It's not anything crazy deep. They're not like talking about anything super important, but it is a tool for economic things, so you can definitely argue, SpongeBob as a cultural output has something to say, or there's something to be said about SpongeBob's impact on the economy for sure. But like, I don't think we need to get super into it. But I want to look at some of the cards here. So we have Plankton, Tiny Tyrant, who is Skrelv, Deflector Might, Mono White. Say that 3 times fast. He has Toxic 1, can't block. You can pay 1 white or 1 life. 2 life. That's right. Phyrexian mana is 2 life. And you can tap them, you choose a color, target another creature you control gains Toxic and Hexproof from that color until end of turn. Can't be blocked by creatures that went to Can't be blocked by creatures that went to college. Can't be blocked by creatures of that color this turn. So it's kind of limited, mono white deck, but it's a fun mechanic. You can do that at instant speed, right? So, you can declare attackers, no one declares blockers, you pay the life, you pay the mana, you tap them. Your big hitter has Toxic 1, so they get 1 poison counter on them. It's kind of cool. I think it's not a bad choice. I think mechanically it works. I just think that the mono white color for Plankton, who's very clearly green, is wrong. We have Mr. Krabs, Penny Pincher, who's Charix, the Raging Isle. Leviathan Crab. Spells your opponent's cast that target Mr. Krabs cost 2 more to cast. You pay 3, Mr. Krabs gets plus X minus X until the end of turn, where X is the number of islands you control. If you boys is wasting time, then you're wasting money, and that's just sick. Big butt, great blocker, able to become something really, really nightmarish on the attack. But again, I don't think it's fitting because Mr. Krabs is very clearly red. Red. Like, you think they'd get it. They got it right here, close enough. Blue. Squidward, Sarcastic Snob as Grazlax, the Illithid Scholar. Horror, legendary creature. Whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, you may return it to its owner's hand. So, you can pop out your creatures that are getting blocked, say you don't want it to die, or whatever reason you want to force your opponent to tap down a creature. So now it's a great way to politic, like, hey, they tapped down to block, they had to declare that blocker, they can't attack with it, they're open, and whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you draw a card. I hate all of you. So I think that's great. I like the flavor text on these. I think this one is especially great. Good politicking card. They finally got the colors to match up fine. We'll take that one. Gary the Snail as Toxrill the Corrosive, a very strong commander. This is one that got a lot of people online. They're like talking about this one, thinking it's very off color or out of character. I disagree. I think it works really well. I think it also would have been funny to see Gary the Snail as like the professor character that he is whenever he's in SpongeBob's dreams. Whenever, where he's like in the library and he's standing up like a human and he's reading a book and he's got the robes as Jace. I think that would have been funny. But this is good too because Gary is easily one of the most aggressive characters in the show. But he doesn't show it all the time. So I think it's funny. I think it's good. Toxrill the Corrosive, Gary the Snail. At the beginning of each end step, you put a slime counter on creature you control. On each creature you don't control, sorry. And creatures you don't control get -1/-1 for each slime counter on them. Whenever a creature you don't control with a slime counter on it dies, you create a 1/1 black slug creature token. You can sack a slug for a black and blue and draw a card. So really fun. Dimir deck. I love Dimir. My favorite color pairing. That's the black and blue. And I think this is fun. I think this is great. I like Toxrill. Toxrill really can ruin a game for someone though. And then we have Sandy Cheeks, Martial Astronaut, as Toski, Bearer of Secrets. It's a legendary creature, a squirrel. The spell can't be countered. It is indestructible. Sandy Cheeks attacks each combat if able. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. So, aggressive green deck, you have a lot of creatures you want to build up. You have a card draw engine in there. So, very fun commander. I think it's fine. Squirrels are green. I have no problem with that. Sandy is not necessarily in the color pie herself, but I think green. I think Toski works for Sandy when you think about the other squirrels that are out there, especially the other legendary squirrels. I don't know if there is another squirrel that would work as well. Maybe Chatterfang, right? But I think that Sandy Cheeks definitely works as Toski. I think that's a good matchup. I have Patrick Starr as Barktooth Warbeard. I don't get it. He's a human warrior, 6'5", big, strong, expensive, doesn't do anything else. Flavor-wise, it works. Again, Pat, not really a Rakdos character. But I don't think Patrick would really fit in with any of the color pie necessarily based on just who he is. So I think it's fine. I think it works. I have no complaints here. Again, is Patrick Star. He's a big dumb lug. And then the big star of the show is SpongeBob Squarepants as Joda the Unifier. 5-color gold star commander here. He's got legendary creature human wizard. Legendary creatures you control get S plus X plus X, where X is the number of legendary creatures you control. And whenever you cast a legendary spell from your hand, you exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a legendary non-land card with lesser mana value. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Joda is really strong, and I guess having SpongeBob as Joda makes sense. He wants all of his friends there. He doesn't really care who they are. He wants to hang out with them. And a lot of time in the show, he wants to hang out with Plankton too, right? He wants to hang out with people who don't necessarily like him because SpongeBob likes them, because that's who SpongeBob is. I think it works. I think it's fine. I don't like that SpongeBob is the only one. No, Sandy doesn't have flavor text too, and neither does. I didn't realize that. They don't have flavor text. They have so much rules, they don't get flavor text. See, that's something I don't like. I love flavor text. I think they're funny most of the time. If they're not funny, they're pretty insightful. And it bums me out whenever I see a card without flavor text. It feels like something's missing. But I mean, this is a lot. This is a lot to read on a card. But after that, you have the spells. So you have the counter spell, which is the SpongeBob Chicken Freeze Frame. The art, of course, redone by Tyler Walpole, so it's in higher resolution. You have days, go back here, counter spell. You counter target spell. Pay 2 blue, instant speed, you say no, they can't, and then you move on. Days, it's another counter spell. For 1 and a blue instant, you may return an island you control to its owner's hand rather than pay the spell's mana cost. So you can bounce an island back to yourself, which is great when you're tapped down. You get a free counter spell, unless of course they pay an additional 1 mana. So Days really good to play on a big creature or a big spell. Someone has Farewell and you don't want to lose your stuff. You play Days. They can't do the Farewell, presumably, if they tap down to do it, which a lot of the times people will have to, unless they wait for a really late game Farewell. But I like it. It's got Mr. Krabs dazed and confused, right? The world's spinning out around him. Inevitable betrayal with Patrick Star on top of the stones there. This is a great one. Sorcery speed, you suspend 3, so it has 3 counters on it. That'll keep it out of play for 3 turns. Pay 1 and 2 blue. You search target opponent's library for a creature card and put that card in the battlefield under your control. Then that player shuffles. Another great spell. These are some really good spells. And I like the art. I like the meme of Patrick Star just hanging out there and looming over you, looming over SpongeBob as the suspend counters count down. He gets closer and closer to taking your cards. That's great. I think it's fine. I think it's funny. Force of Despair, we have for 1 and 2 black. Excuse me. Squidward staring out alone from his house as Patrick and SpongeBob have fun. Cast it at instant speed, and if it's not your turn, you may exile a black card from your hand rather than pay this spell's mana cost. So again, another free spell. You destroy all creatures that entered this turn. So if you're playing against a big creature deck and it's almost your turn, but they just put out a bunch of creatures at the end of their turn, you want to play this, you want to pitch a card, get rid of all of them, set their board state back, really mess with them. And again, I like the art. Squidward's missing out. He's the one feeling the despair. Knight's Whisper. For 1 and a black, you draw 2 cards and lose 2 life, and the unable to sleep Squidward is a great one. I think it's great art. I think these are, like I said, really good choices for the memes. The spells are definitely my favorite of all of them. I think it's interesting that they didn't do one for each color, right? Like they just did blue and black spells only. You know, I don't know what they could have done differently, but I think it would have been interesting to see more color variety in the spells, and just because they're great spells, they're Dimir colors. Of course, I love them. I love Dimir, but I think that having just all blue, all black spells, instants, and sorceries might have been a missed opportunity. I think there could have been some cool stuff they could have done with the other colors for the SpongeBob theme. I think there could have been something. Food, and you get a food token. It's a Krabby Patty. Who doesn't want to eat a Krabby Patty? Careful, they'll all go to your thighs. You pay 2, you tap, you sack, and you gain 3 life. Gotta tap the sack to gain 3 life. But it's good art, you know. Again, it's a Krabby Patty. I don't think I'd have it any other way. You know, you can't put a kelp shake on there. That's not the iconic food of SpongeBob. It is the Krabby Patty is the iconic food of SpongeBob. We have the plains, the island. Something that was pointed out is, you know, Gary is in all of these. So there he is on the jellyfish fields, the island, which is just Bikini Bottom. I do think it would have been funny to do the island from the episode where SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, Mr. Krabs, and Sandy all go to the surface and are all like hyper-realistic puppets. I think that would have been funny. But I don't think it would have been as universal a get. Maybe, maybe not. This is very iconic art though. Bikini Bottom, the swamp, which is the Rock Bottom bus station, with there he is again, Gary, very far from home. Mount Bikini Bottom, which I don't know. I don't remember seeing a volcano in Bikini Bottom, so maybe that's something from like newer seasons. You know. Something that's not from when I was watching SpongeBob, which was now a very long time ago. It feels only like yesterday, but no, it was a very long time ago since the last time I watched an episode of SpongeBob. And there's Gary forefront watching the volcano erupt. Again, they could have done when Squidward was Krakatoa, when he was the superhero with the volcano head. That would have been funny. Missed opportunities. It's all about missed opportunities, and we're down here in the kelp forest with, again, our beautiful little snail winding his way. So these are all the cards. They, like I said, good art. I like them. I don't have too much of a strong opinion about them either which way. I do think there were some missed opportunities with some of the sorceries and instants. But it's very strange to see people trying to like argue character theory and character philosophy on SpongeBob cards and like how they need to match up with different magic characters. I'm like, I don't think they're really going to, right? Especially if you're trying to make them like legendary characters, because a lot of like Magic's internal legendary characters take themselves a little more seriously than the SpongeBob internal characters do. You know, they don't, like, Plankton is there for laughs, he's there for jokes, he's not necessarily like a serious villain, because the stakes are a burger recipe. It's not, you know, like the stakes are an entire plane of existence, and Karn is like trying to decide, do I destroy people or not? You know, what is the limit on it? Plankton is like, well, God, I really want that burger recipe. I'm gonna put myself in a little spitball and have a robot shoot me across the ocean here and try and steal it that way. Right? It's nothing crazy, nothing wild. Just a little sponge and his friend. But like I said, overall, I think I like it. I don't know if I'm gonna get it, mostly because the secret layers sell very quickly. They are not print to demand. They're just, they're there when they're there. Sure, the window of potential opportunity is long, but they sell out. They only make so many, and they want to capitalize on FOMO. They want to capitalize on people wanting to buy them right then and there. They don't want people to think about it. They just want to spend the money. So it really endorses the second, people like buying them as bots, right? People setting up bots to make all these purchases, or someone buying them in bulk just so they can redistribute them at higher cost because, oh, you missed out, but guess what? I've got one here for you. And it sucks. It's a bummer. I think they should go back to print on demand for the secret layers. Give people a little more opportunity. It takes more time, sure. They're gonna make their money, right? They're not going to make their money because people have longer to consider their options and maybe buy it, right? They probably would make more money because more people would have a way to buy it directly from them instead of trying to then go and buy it on the secondary market. So that's something that I would like to see, right? Something that I would like to see. Other thoughts about it. Pleasant Kenobi on YouTube had a great video about how this is possibly going to impact alters arts, which is something I hadn't thought about. Like, all of these cards are more or less, because they're not mechanically unique, they're all alters, right? Which someone could have done. If you wanted a SpongeBob, if you wanted inevitable betrayal as Patrick Star looming over your opponent, you could have, if you wanted to, hired an alter artist and have them make it themselves, right? And support a local, or not necessarily local, but a small content creator, a small artist. Instead, they're now going to be put out by Wizards of the Coast. They're official alters, which is one of the things that I've seen that complain about that I do more or less agree with, in the idea that they are just they're sanctioned alters. So how that could impact alter artists, if they do more of this stuff in the future, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be terribly detrimental, but it is kind of like a weird thing. But I also like the fact, personally, that they're not mechanically unique cards. I like the fact that they're not something specific, like SpongeBob didn't have, regenerate ×2, right? He can pull his arms off, or he doesn't have a special mechanic absorb. He can absorb the damage and it adds X plus X to his power and toughness, right? He doesn't have any wild mechanics to him. He is a known entity as Joda the Unifier. He's an alter, more or less, but he is a known entity. Pluses and minuses, take him where you can. So those are my thoughts on the SpongeBob secret lair, on this little yellow guy and Tom Kenny's iconic laughter. The article that I was using for this is from Collider. So if you want to go and you want to read it in more detail, you can go to Collider, look up their SpongeBob Magic the Gathering altar. It's in there. It was typed up by Eric Masoto. So, we thank them for that. Like I said, if you want another video to watch on it, I would recommend Pleasant Kenobi's video on it, where he talks a little bit more about the alters situation. He goes into that in a little more detail. So definitely check that out. All right. Well, thank you for watching the video today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you could, leave a like and a comment and a subscription would be greatly appreciated. It would really help me out here. And if you care to, follow me on Twitch at Dasslothman. If you're able, you can even consider supporting me on patreon.com/Dasslothman there as well. But that's all for me today, and I hope to see you around next time. Bye.